Humans have spent thousands of years building grand mythologies to soften the hardest edge of our reality, the exact moment we stop living. We construct elaborate stories about what happens next to soothe the terror of an absolute stop. But despite centuries of theological debate and biological mapping, the other side of that boundary remains a complete vacuum. Nobody has ever brought back a documented map of where we go. To find a completely unvarnished look at that transition, we have to strip away those mythologies and look at a specific winter in 1890 on the western plains of North America. A leader is spending his final moments reflecting on exactly what this transition means. Historically attributed to Chief Crowfoot of the Siksika Nation, speaking to a missionary named Father Doucette, he skips past the promise of a heavenly reward. He acknowledges a much harder truth. We come from an absolute void, and we are returning to it. He states it plainly, "Whither I cannot tell. From nowhere we come, into nowhere we go." Staring into that void, he asks a final foundational question. What is life? He answers this question by grounding mortality in 3 hyper-specific, observable micro-moments in nature, offering a philosophy built on the physical world rather than the supernatural. The first observation is immediate. It is the flash of a firefly in the night. Biologically, a bioluminescent flash is an intense, temporary burst of energy. It exists for a fraction of a second, bordered by absolute darkness. When mapped to the human experience, this illustrates the concept of deep time. We are a very brief chemical reaction occurring within the objective, geologic vastness of an ancient universe. This diagram represents that scale. Measured against the billions of years of cosmic history that precede our birth and the billions that will follow our death, the mathematical duration of a single human lifespan registers as barely a flicker. That flicker is exactly what gives consciousness its weight. A human life derives its value from its brevity, standing in contrast to the eternal dark. The second metaphor shifts from time to energy. It is the breath of a buffalo in the wintertime. On the freezing plains, a massive herd of buffalo represents immense living vitality. They are engines of heat moving across a frozen landscape. When that hot, dense concentration of biological energy collides with a freezing, indifferent environment, it instantly breaks apart. This is a visual demonstration of thermodynamic equilibrium. The heat generated by a living organism cannot sustain itself indefinitely against the cold. It eventually dissipates, redistributing its warmth outward until it matches the surrounding temperature. Under this framework, dying is the physical redistribution of our vitality back into the ecosystem from which we temporarily borrowed it. The final metaphor addresses our physical presence. It is the little shadow that runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. For a shadow to exist, 3 distinct physical elements must align: a subject to block the light, an environment like the grass to catch the shape, and a light source like the sun to project it. A shadow running across the grass is the active, moving imprint of a life. It represents our daily interactions and the physical mark we leave on our environment and our communities while we are here. As the Earth rotates into twilight, the mechanics of light change. The shadow elongates, distorts, and is swallowed as ambient light overtakes the specific shape. The fading of that shadow is the result of the planet turning. It is a natural, inescapable mechanic that erases the imprint we leave behind. This 1890 reflection frames human life as a series of transient physical events: a pulse of light, a temporary heat, and a passing imprint. By reframing Beth as a physical return to the surrounding ecosystem, the paralyzing terror of stepping into an unknown void starts to neutralize. There are no detailed visions of an afterlife promised here. The before and the after are left exactly as they are, unknowable boundaries. Since we come from nowhere and go to nowhere, truly appreciating existence requires accepting our ephemerality. It demands that we burn brightly, feel our own warmth, and deliberately cast our shadow before the sun inevitably sets.